Hey everyone, it's Lydia with Whole Modern Parent, and today we have Cassie Ballard again with our Seva. Hi, Cassie.
Hi, Lydia. Thanks for having me back.
Thank you. We are going to forge on with our conversation with her, and we're going to back into navigating the space in between for motherhood. And more importantly, we're going to dive into how to access that inner wisdom, right, Cassie?
The juicy in between.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah. Inner wisdom. Yeah. You know what? I was thinking about this before our call, and I'm realizing that there's so much cultural noise right now about what we shouldn't be doing, what we should be feeling, what we should be taking that are helpful and not performative, like just so much noise that the only way to really navigate that with some sense of like inner resolution or like steady pulse is to tap into whatever you want to call as your inner wisdom, whether that's your gut, your guide, whatever that is. I think that's where we need to be taking action from today.
Yeah.
And so I'm really diving into that as a personal practice. Like what does that even look like for a mama these days?
So mamas are busy, and you know that. What are some ways that we can, and I've experienced it too, when you just have so much like whirling around in your brain, and it's just hard to get that quiet time or that quiet space. What do you do for yourself to kind of quiet the mind? Is it a meditation practice? How do you get to that point where you reconnect? Because I think in this world we're living in, I think some of us are so disconnected with ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. So before motherhood, I would say I had a pretty lengthy like personal practice. It was this waking up with the sun and doing an asana flow and sitting for meditation for a while and having my tea, and just like it was this orchestra of things that I would do to get me in the right space to go about my day, or to feel like I was um, able to show up in the way that I wanted to show up. And to be honest, when becoming a mother, that was the piece that I felt like I lost forever. Like I'm not quite sure how to get that in its entirety back. So what I do now is I'm kind of exploring what it means to see the sacredness or the beauty in the mundane.
Mm.
As women, as mothers, we're kind of trudging along in the mundane. It's this repetition, it's the repeating of routines and tasks for our family. And, sometimes it's routine, sometimes it's not. But
Yeah, right.
yeah. Using the mundane as like an awareness practice, as a bring me into the present moment practice. And typically, it's something that's moment to moment, lasting only a few moments, but it's the, what do I want to say? Like squeezing life out of like every little bit that I got. So a lot of times I'll use the transitions. So if you're a mama of toddlers, you know that transitions are really hard for the kiddos. And I like to consider these in-between spaces the opportunity to slow down. If you ever get into a toddler battle and you are in a transition, you know that just by slowing down your pace, things start to fall into place a little bit better, instead of hurry, put your shoes on. It's more of like, okay, let's sit and put our shoes on.
Yeah.
Like the energetics behind it is just completely different.
And it really works. Honestly, it's amazing to me how just slowing down with them, it's like, okay, this was easy.
Yeah. So for myself, so much of like bringing me back into that present moment is in my breath, because I'm someone that stops breathing when I'm moving too quickly. I'm breathing from here up, and I'm not taking those big belly breaths that I know I need. And so now that my daughter's old enough, we're trying to teach her breath.
Yes. Yeah.
And so using those transition moments, not only to allow her to slow down, but it's like the perfect reminder for me to slow down as well. So whether it's after a nap, in between activities, as we're getting into the car, we practice different, like, let's just take 3 breaths, like let's breathe in, and she's like, but it's that moment where I center myself as well.
Mm-hmm.
So those in-betweens feel a little bit softer around the edges. But I think there's so many ways that you can bring a little bit of that slowness or that stillness to the mundane, that really helps you find like a steady pulse.
Right.
So one thing that you can do is look into your routine, into your natural rhythms that are already happening. Where is repetition already taking place?
Mm-hmm.
Washing the dishes, folding
Yes.
the laundry, driving the car, rocking the baby, taking a walk. Like, these are moments in the day where like the pace is already being set for you
Right.
in that little moment. And I'm now more aware of them, and I'll be like, oh, this is my moment. Like, let's replicate this with a slower breath or more intentionality in whatever I'm doing. And it's amazing how just those simple little things throughout the day slow you down.
Mm-hmm.
It takes you out of your head and into your heart. And back to our last conversation, as our children reflecting where we are in the process.
Right.
I start to see more steadiness in my daughter as well, just by those simple things.
So I think probably some mothers that are in between, and well, we're all in between, and at some point or another. But is there like a process or some way that you kind of came whole with letting go of your past self?
No.
And I know that's probably maybe not even the best thing to do, but I feel like having conversations with moms, it is, I think, and maybe the answer here is just redirecting to the present, and like that's the practice is.
Yeah, that's definitely the practice, is returning to the present moment. But I do think when we're talking about life transitions in general, there's always the in-between spot. There's this place where what once was has dissolved, and what's taking its place hasn't yet shown up. The best example, the first time that this really hit me, was postpartum. You get yourself prepared for birth. You have as much control as you think you have in that moment. And then seconds later, hours later, you're on this other side of this threshold, completely reborn into something completely unfamiliar. And it doesn't quite feel like you've started the next thing. You know what I mean? So that in-between stage is actually, it's called the liminal spaces. So it's like I said, this place where one reality has dissolved and another hasn't quite surfaced yet. And it's the juncture. It's that slight pause, it's the inhale, slight pause, exhale.
Uh-huh.
It's the tide coming in, pause, and then it goes back out. Like there's this momentary window of time where time just kind of stops.
Mm-hmm.
We're in one right now.
Yes.
Like we're in a really large liminal
really big one. Yes.
But you asked about returning to this spot, and I've realized that the beauty in the practice isn't in trying to get back to where we were.
Mm-hmm.
It's about honoring the in-between and understanding that with the stillness, with what seems to be very still, is actually a whole lot of things happening under the surface that are redirecting you into the next best route.
Right. That would be the pulling, right?
Yeah, that's the pulling of the tide. Yeah. Or, it's that we feel that discomfort because it's that like right before something starts. And as we go through motherhood, or as I go through motherhood, I'm realizing that there's so many spaces in between.
Mm-hmm.
It's in between what career I had to the career I have now. It's in between infanthood to toddlerhood. Like there's these subtle transitions that if we can honor them for what they are, is kind of like these rites of passage,
Mm-hmm.
that they become sweeter and they don't feel as uncomfortable. And there's a lot of wisdom that resonates from those spaces, but we tend to not see it until we're out of it.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to spot them. Spot them more and just kind of like sink into it and be like, this will
right.
be feeding. Like, what can I do in this moment to just soak it in?
And maybe there's a little bit of a kind of reflection opportunity on other transitions that we've experienced before the space that we're at now, to see kind of what that look like what are the skill sets or the feelings, or what things do we incline to kind of gravitate towards to help. I think that would help us realize this is how we're going to ride this wave, and just to be aware of the triggers or things that are happening.
We tend to do it again, similarly in another phase, and sometimes that's helpful and sometimes it's not, because we didn't go about it the best way. But
that's true.
It is that
you don't want to repeat the mistakes.
Right. It's like, I didn't really handle that postpartum also gracefully. Maybe I'll do that a little bit different next time.
Right.
But I think that stillness that we're talking about actually allows you to evaluate what allows you to feel in rhythm and what actually takes you out of rhythm, and make the adjustment necessary before things start swelling again.
Right. Well, and I think just you and I having the conversation, and Cassie has lots of great articles around this topic and around some other ones that are the below surface on her website, ourseva.com. And I want to just thank you personally for putting that content out there. And you've pulled some stories from some moms together on your website as well. And I think it's valuable and encouraging. And for me, it makes me feel like the transition, and it's less of like a crisis personally, and more of this is what all women walk through. And just feeling like it's normal and always happens, and that there is community around these feelings, and kind of figuring out what that transition looks like for us as mothers.
Yeah, that made me think of, I like to use the word personal practice because I feel like that gives women and mothers so much grace to
Mhm.
play around without the pressure of doing it right or doing it in the culturally accepted manner.
Yeah.
And when I started to approach motherhood through that lens of this is my practice, this is my transformation, it becomes more of an experiment and it's fun and there's a little bit of levity to it, and
Yeah.
you get another opportunity to practice again because that's just how it goes. And um, that was kind of like a big aha
Yeah.
moment for me, and having the community to validate my inner wisdom when I felt like I needed it, but ultimately knowing that I already have the answers within,
Mm-hmm.
has been a really um, fun part of bringing our Seva to life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Cassie, thank you so much for
Thank you.
giving our audience all of this information. You guys, if you have a chance, please go and look at her Facebook group. It's the Our Seva Motherhood Circle on Facebook, and you can go ahead and search in there. It's really good. The information that she posts on there is very informative and helpful, and there's a lot of mamas with some great community and stories themselves on there. Cassie, thank you so much for your time
Thank
today.
you. Thank you. This has been so much fun.
Okay. Well, and you will see more of Cassie within our community as well. So we will just keep bringing her and Our Seva into your inbox and into our Facebook group as well. Bye.
Thank you.